Today in math, we're going to be working with the concepts of congruent and similar. So I'm going to take a minute this morning and walk you through and show you what the difference between congruent and similar is. So we're going to start off with congruent shapes. Congruent, as we've learned this quarter in math, is a geometry word for equal. It's kind of a fancy, specific way of saying equal when you're only talking about shapes, lines, and angles. So when you have a congruent shape, it basically means exactly that. When we had congruent angles, it meant the angles were the same. If we had congruent lines, it meant the lines were the same. When we have congruent shapes, it means that the shapes are the same. So as best I could with my awesome art abilities, you can see that I have drawn two trapezoids, and they are as congruent as I can possibly get them. If they were truly congruent, it would mean that the angles were the same and the lines were the same. And a lot of times what you'll see on models is people will put like measurements on it. So they'll say, okay, that's the measure of those. Or they'll tell you that the measure of the angles. They'll say, you know, that's a 75-degree angle, and that's a 75-degree angle. So they'll demonstrate some way to show you that they're congruent, okay? And the same, I did a little bit better job down here with these rectangles, exact same shape, and the angles are the same. They're all right angles, and the lines are the same too. Sometimes instead of the measurements, you'll see people do this, where they'll put these little lines, and it just kind of shows that, you know, this line's equal to this line and this line are the same, which are the same as these two. Same with these side lines. The side line and the side line are the same, and the same with these. So that is congruent, okay? All right, moving over to similar. Similar basically means that the angles are the same, but the sides are different sizes. So for example, if you look at these two triangles, they're basically like a miniature and big version of each other. So this triangle and this triangle, when you look at them, they look really similar. There's that word. But they're not quite the same. So if I were to measure these angles, if that was 60, that might be 62, 60, and 60. So all the angles might be the same. But then if I took a ruler and measured the outside, that might be 3 inches, and that might be 1 inch. So similar basically just means that the angles are the same, but the outside measure of the actual lines are different, okay? Same with my rectangles. My rectangles here, if I measured the angles, they'd be 90, like that. But then when I measure the outside, they're going to be different sizes, okay? And again, people will do measurements. They'll measure them like this. They'll say that's 3, 3, 3. It's 1, 1, 1. You know, same shape, same angles, different size. They can also do the thing with the lines again, where they might say, all right, those two are the same, those two are the same, and then these are over here something different. Okay, and so that's basically, you know, your similar shapes. So one more time, congruent means that they're the same size lines, same size angles, perfectly equal shapes. Similar means that the angles are the same, but the size of the lines are different.